Right, if I can ask you first of all to introduce yourselves and tell me where you're from, if you could go first. You go first. Yeah.
I'm Emily Novaczek. I'm from the East Coast of Canada.
My name is Jonathan Williams. I'm also from the East Coast of Canada.
Right, and why are you both here in Cancun? What brings you to Cancun?
We're both members of the Canadian Youth Delegation, so it's a group of 29 students from across Canada that have come to push our government to act on climate change, but also to promote awareness in Canada of how the UNFCCC works and how Canada is working at the UNFCCC.
Okay. Well, I'll ask you how your government's doing in a little while, but firstly, tell me, I mean, generally among Canadian youth, is there an awareness of the issues of climate change?
Yes and no. There's definitely communities within student communities at universities. It's definitely gaining momentum. Part of what we do with Canadian Youth Delegation is we have a home team. So there are right now youth across the country organizing events, organizing actions, organizing communications campaigns, letter writing parties, and that kind of thing, to raise awareness where they are and to let the government know that they are paying attention. So it's definitely something that's growing. It's not, I wouldn't say we're there yet, but it's definitely, a lot of people are working on it.
Right.
And I would say that, youth in Canada are probably the sector of the population that is pushing the most for this, just because I think that we have grown up with these kinds of global issues. I mean, when we were kids, we heard so much about the ozone layer. And I think that comes in now when we hear about climate change. And I think we really do have a belief that these kinds of problems do exist and need to be acted upon. But, that awareness is something that, we're still building. I mean, it's still in the building process.
And do you get the impression that you're listened to by the middle-aged, mostly men in grey suits in parliaments and those people in power?
I think it depends. I mean, we've had meetings since we've been here with representatives from 4 of the 5 federal political parties in Canada, and I think some of them have listened to us and some of them haven't. The ones that haven't listened to us, maybe just don't have the same views that we do and wouldn't be affected anyway.
Yeah, I think I would agree. It definitely depends who you're talking to. And there have been successes and, again, losses. I mean, we this year managed to push through a climate change accountability bill past the members of parliament. So that was a huge success. And then, of course, it got killed in our non-elected Senate right before coming here. So, yes and no. There are definitely people who are really receptive and who are interested in taking action, and then other parties who are not.
Apart from that setback in the Senate, the government, the authorities in Canada, do you feel generally moving in the right direction with regards to climate change?
Our current government is not. No. Do you want to?
No, I mean, the Canadian government, we can say our current government, but the Canadian government since 1990 has allowed emissions to go up by over 30%. We have, domestically, we have no climate legislation. We were the only country last year to come back from Copenhagen and reduce our targets. We're the only member of the Kyoto Protocol that has said that we're not going to meet our Kyoto emissions targets. And so, the list just goes on in terms of what is happening within Canada. Now, what's interesting that's happening is at the provincial level, there are provincial governments that are acting on climate change, and I believe they're more representative of what the Canadian population genuinely wants, because most Canadians, 80% of Canadians, want action on climate change, and so the Canadian government just hasn't caught up with its population, and I mean,
we're running out of time. Yeah, we're running out of time. They've got to catch up.
Right. Okay. And what's the experience been like for you both here in Cancun? I mean, maybe you've mixed with other youth groups. Have you been learned a great deal since you've been here? And what's the experience been like?
Yeah, definitely learned a ton. We got here a few days early, or most of us did, and participated in COI. So that's the Conference of Youth before COP16 started. And we've been working really closely with the rest of Youngo, so all the young NGOs. And also, as Jonathan mentioned, we've been meeting with politicians. and just, really creating a network and getting really involved. It's been really great. There's definitely highs and lows. I mean, our environment minister today called the principle of common but differentiated responsibility a sidecar issue. So highs and lows for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big low. I mean, the low, the negative is that, we're coming here and the Canadian government is just, I mean, we spoke about what the Canadian government is doing within Canada, but here are the negotiations. I think, it's a really good chance they'll get the Colossal Fossil Prize as the country that's contributed the least to these negotiations. And I don't even think that that's a genuine, it shouldn't be the country that's contributed the least. It's the country that is negatively impacting the negotiations the most. So Canada is pushing against a legally binding agreement or a new renewal of the Kyoto Protocol, and they're doing it in a really subtle way. They won't say so publicly, but if you read between the lines of what they're saying, and if you've heard the statement by the not the Mexican president,
Cristina
Figueres, then you hear that in the back rooms, Canada is pushing against a renewal of the Kyoto Protocol, and that is the essential element to these negotiations. Developing countries have said they won't accept any agreement on mitigation if there's not, as a first condition, a renewal of the Kyoto Protocol. So, I mean, Canada is, it's an incredible learning experience for us. It's incredible to be communicating with people back home. It is saddening to see what our country is doing. And one of the messages, I guess, that we would like to give here is that this isn't what Canadians want. This doesn't represent our country, really. I mean, and so, it's really saddening and discouraging to see what we are doing at the conference.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
Thanks.